What's up, guys? Happy Sunday. This is September 1st. I just wanted to go ahead and extend this video related to the release of Motley Crue's Dr. Feelgood today on September 1st, and also Rush, A Farewell to Kings, was released on this date in 1977. I was just a kid when Rush was released, but I did find out about that album many years later as a teenager in the 80s. And I played that album to death. It is, to this day, it's one of my favorite Rush albums. It features the song Xanadu, which is an excellent, epic song. Cygnus X1 is another lengthy track that ends the album. That's kind of like a cliffhanger. And it continues on the next album, Hemispheres. It also features Closer to the Heart, which is a radio-friendly song. Personally, not my favorite song on the album, probably my least favorite. But it features such great tracks. The title track, A Farewell to Kings, another great song. Cinderella Man. There's a few other ones. Awesome album. This saw Rush go into more progressive territory. They played a lot more instruments, expanding what they had already played on the previous albums. I believe this was their first gold record, which reached the top 40. So great album all the way around. Like I say, one of my personal favorite Rush albums. I wanted to hear your thoughts on that album. If you are a Rush fan, if you've heard A Farewell to Kings, what do you think about it? Is it one of your favorites as well? I find myself going to that one a lot. That's kind of like my go-to. Hemispheres, depending on my moods, another fantastic Rush record. Caress of Steel. Grace Under Pressure is another hidden gem, along with Signals, both from 1982 and 1984. Those two came right after Moving Pictures in the 80s. But anyway, I don't want to get too far off track. I just wanted to mention A Farewell to Kings, released on this date in 1977, September 1st. Now let's get to Motley Crue. Dr. Feelgood, released on this date in 1989. Now, I will admit I am not a big Motley Crue fan. I have never been a big Motley Crue fan, but there is no denying how big of an album that was. All of my friends were listening to that album, and I could not help to hear every single song on it, whether it was through them, on the radio, or on MTV. And like I say, I had to mention that I'm not a big Motley Crue fan. That being said, that is a great album. That album and Shout at the Devil are probably my two Motley Crue albums that I do like. Arguably, they're probably the best two Motley Crue albums, actually. But, man, I just want to talk about how big that album was when it came out in 1989. I mean, everybody was listening to that. It was huge. Motley Crue was everywhere. At that time, they were probably the biggest band in the world, along with maybe Guns N' Roses, maybe. Metallica was still pretty big at the time. You know, hair metal was still going strong. We were kind of at the tail end of hair metal, but we didn't know it at the time. But, you know, Motley Crue, Rat, Poison, Warrant, Whitesnake. There was a new band called Blue Murder that was just coming out with their album. There was a lot of hair metal that was still happening. Cinderella had come out with Long Cold Winter the year before in 1988, so there was a lot of hair metal to be found. And Motley Crue was at the top of the heap. That is a fantastic album. I listened to it today, actually, just to kind of remind myself of the times. And man, I'm 50 years old, and if you're anywhere around my age, I know you got to miss the 80s. It was just a different time period. It was just, the atmosphere was different. Everything about the 80s was different. And so I'm sure you could totally relate to what I'm talking about. But music was everywhere. There was no shortage of rock and roll. Even though hair metal did tend to get saturated and overprocessed and generic, which led to an easy takeover of grunge. So, but, you know, that's for another story one day. But I just wanted to mention Motley Crue. Man, when that album came out, it was everywhere. It was huge. I had to listen to it again today. It's still great. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Sunday. I am not editing this video. If I start or make a mistake or whatever, I'm just leaving it in. Just wanted to go ahead and mention all this real quick on this nice, beautiful Sunday afternoon. Many of you guys might be off tomorrow for Labor Day, so am I. But I just wanted to go ahead and reminisce with you guys for a minute and see if you remember any of this music that I just mentioned. Comment below. What was your favorite band from the hair metal era from 1989? Do you remember Motley Crue, Dr. Feelgood? Did you listen to Rush, A Farewell to Kings, even though that was over a decade before? Is that one of your favorite Rush albums as well? Also released on this date in 1978 is Styx, Pieces of 8. It features the hits Renegade and Blue Collar Man. Now, I am not too familiar with that album. I'm not going to lie to you and say that I know it a lot, but I have listened to it a little bit. But it did come up on my calendar to mention today because it was released on this date in 1978. That's all I really have to say about that, but it does feature quite a few singles, a few tracks that led to a really good selling Styx album. Are you a Styx fan? I didn't really get into Styx until much later. I think I really became aware of them minus the song Come Sail Away, which I heard a bunch of times when I was a little kid. I'm talking about 3, 4, 5 years old. When I really knew who they were, it was probably early 80s, Mr. Roboto era, 1981 or so. That was a huge song that came on MTV a lot, and that was what really caught my eye with Styx. So anything before that, I wasn't really familiar with them, although I did, listen to them later on in the 80s and everything. Styx has never been like a favorite band of mine, but I do respect them and appreciate them for who they are and what they've done for rock and roll. So that is the 3 albums that came out today on September 1st. We have A Farewell to Kings in 1977. We have Pieces of 8 by Styx in 1978. And in 1989, we have Dr. Feelgood from Motley Crue. Again, y'all enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Keep rocking, stay safe, and leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Take care.